First strike. The experimental warship Hyperion hung in the darkness of deep space, its sleek hull reflecting distant starlight. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing their latest test results. The ship's revolutionary quantum drive had performed flawlessly during trials, but something still felt off about the readings. "Dr. Nash, are you seeing these power fluctuations in Section 7? She asked, gesturing to a pulsing diagram. The ship's chief engineer ran his fingers through his graying hair. "It's within acceptable parameters, Commander, but you're right. There's a harmonic we didn't predict. The AI is still learning to optimize the containment fields." As if on cue, the ship's artificial intelligence spoke through the bridge speakers. Its voice was deliberately engineered to sound gender-neutral, yet somehow managed to convey both authority and curiosity. "Commander Chen, I've analyzed the quantum field variations. They appear to be caused by a previously unknown interaction between the drive's exotic matter core and the ship's defensive shields. I recommend." The AI's voice cut off as emergency klaxons suddenly blared throughout the ship. Red warning lights bathed the bridge in their harsh glow. Multiple distress calls detected. The AI announced, its tone now sharp with urgency. "New Eden colony is under attack. Massive energy signatures consistent with capital ship weapons fire. Receiving emergency broadcasts from civilian channels." Chen's blood ran cold. New Eden was humanity's most distant colony, home to over 50,000 pioneers and scientists. It was also completely defenseless against a major assault. "Show me," she ordered. The holographic display shifted, revealing a nightmare scenario. A dozen massive vessels of unknown design hung in orbit around New Eden, methodically destroying the colony's infrastructure with precise energy weapon strikes. Smaller craft swarmed between them like angry wasps. "Analysis indicates unknown vessels match no known configurations in our database," the AI reported. "Energy readings suggest technology significantly more advanced than current human capabilities. They are systematically targeting population centers and vital infrastructure." Chen's mind raced. The Hyperion was the most advanced ship humanity had ever built, but it was still in testing. Half its systems were experimental, and they had a skeleton crew of only 50 engineers and test pilots. They weren't ready for actual combat. But they were also the only ship within range that had a prayer of making a difference. "How many civilians still alive down there?" she asked quietly. "Thermal and bioscans indicate approximately 42,000 survivors," the AI responded. "That number is decreasing rapidly. Current projection shows total population loss within 6 hours if the attack continues unopposed." Chen straightened her shoulders and turned to face her bridge crew. She saw her own mix of fear and determination reflected in their eyes. "The Hyperion may be untested," she said, her voice steady, "but those are our people down there. We all knew this ship was built for war. We just didn't expect it to come so soon." "Dr. Nash, can the quantum drive handle combat maneuvers?" The engineer nodded grimly. "She'll hold together, Commander. The real question is whether our experimental weapons will work as designed." "They'll have to," Chen replied. She turned to the tactical station. "Lieutenant Park, begin combat preparations. I want all weapon systems online and ready for immediate deployment. Dr. Nash, divert all non-essential power to shields and weapons. And I want our eye running at full capacity. We're going to need every advantage we can get." As her crew rushed to comply, Chen studied the alien vessels. Their design was elegant but predatory, all sharp angles and weapon ports. Whoever they were, they clearly hadn't expected any resistance at this remote colony. That was about to change. "All hands, this is the commander," Chen announced ship-wide. "We are about to engage an unknown hostile force that is attacking New Eden colony. This ship and crew represent humanity's best technology and training. We may be untested, but we are not unprepared. Those are our people being slaughtered down there, and we are going to make these aliens regret ever entering human space. Battle stations, everyone. Let's show them what humanity can do. The Hyperion's engines flared to life, its quantum drive humming with barely contained power. As they accelerated toward the combat zone, Chen felt a fierce pride in her crew. They might be engineers and test pilots rather than hardened warriors, but they were professionals who understood the stakes. Multiple hostile vessels altering course to intercept, the AI reported. They appear to have detected our approach. Reading weapons lock attempts. Launch countermeasures and begin evasive pattern delta, Chen ordered. Tactical, prepare to fire the phased plasma array on my mark. Let's see how their shields handle a weapon they've never encountered before. The alien fleet's precise formation began to break up as they moved to engage this unexpected threat. Their confidence was about to cost them dearly. The Hyperion might be experimental, but its weapons had been designed specifically to counter advanced shielding technology. All stations report ready, Commander, Lieutenant Park announced. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. Then let's introduce ourselves. Execute attack pattern Alpha and fire at will. The battle for New Eden was about to begin. Trial by fire. The Hyperion's first volley caught the alien fleet completely by surprise. Streams of phased plasma, shifting between states of matter faster than any conventional shields could adjust, tore through the nearest vessel's defenses like they weren't even there. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as internal systems overloaded. Direct hit, Lieutenant Park reported, trying to keep the excitement from his voice. Enemy vessel showing critical damage to primary systems. Their shields are attempting to adapt, but the phase shifting is preventing full compensation. Commander Chen nodded grimly. That got their attention. But don't celebrate yet. Look at their response formation. The alien ships were moving with practiced precision, spreading out in a three-dimensional pattern that would allow them to concentrate fire from multiple angles. Their initial surprise at finding resistance was clearly wearing off. Multiple energy signatures detected, the AI warned. They appear to be charging weapons across a broad spectrum off. The ship lurched violently as the first retaliatory strikes hit. Some kind of graviton beam sliced through space, distorting the very fabric of reality around the Hyperion. The quantum drive screamed in protest as conflicting gravitational forces threatened to tear the ship apart. Shield holding at 60%, Dr. Nash called out, his hands flying over his console. But they're using some kind of gravity manipulation technology we've never seen before. The quantum drive is having trouble compensating for the spatial distortions. Chen gripped her command chair as another barrage rocked the ship. AI, analyze their attack patterns. Look for any predictable intervals or energy buildups we can exploit. Working, the AI responded. I'm detecting a distinct energy signature approximately 2.3 seconds before each graviton beam discharge, if we time our evasive maneuvers precisely. Do it, Chen ordered. Take partial control of navigation and coordinate with helm for maximum efficiency. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the Hyperion began moving in ways that should have been impossible for a ship its size. The AI's inhuman reaction time allowed it to predict and dodge incoming fire with microscopic precision, while still maintaining a stable weapons platform for their own attacks. But the alien fleet's superior numbers were starting to tell. For every hit the Hyperion scored with its experimental weapons, they absorbed dozens of impacts from conventional energy weapons and graviton beams. Damage reports were coming in from all over the ship. Commander, Dr. Nash called out, his voice tense. The quantum drive containment fields are showing signs of stress. We need to reduce our maneuvering intensity or risk a catastrophic failure. Before Chen could respond, a new alert blared through the bridge. Priority transmission from the surface, Lieutenant Park announced. Colonial Defense Forces have established a secure evacuation zone in the southern hemisphere. They're requesting immediate fire support to hold off alien ground forces while they load civilians. Chen studied the tactical display, mind racing. They couldn't maintain this space battle indefinitely. The Hyperion simply wasn't designed for prolonged combat against multiple capital ships. But if they withdrew to support the ground evacuation, the alien fleet would have free rein to bombard the colony from orbit. Give me options, she demanded. There was a brief pause as the artificial intelligence processed billions of calculations. Analysis suggests a potential strategy. The alien fleet's formation indicates they prioritize coordinated fire solutions. If we could disrupt their command and control systems, their tactical efficiency would decrease by an estimated 47.3%. And how exactly do we do that? The quantum drive's exotic matter core could be used to generate a controlled dimensional shift pulse. In theory, this would temporarily disrupt their communications and sensor systems. However, the AI hesitated. The pulse would also severely damage our own systems. We would need to complete the evacuation and exit the combat zone before the drive fails completely. Chen looked around the bridge, meeting the eyes of her crew. They had all heard the risks. They all knew what was at stake. "How many civilians have made it to the evacuation zone?" she asked. "Approximately 15,000, Park responded. "But they're running out of time. Alien ground forces are pressing hard against the defensive perimeter." Chen took a deep breath. "Dr. Nash, begin preparations for the dimensional pulse. Lieutenant Park, plot us a course that will put us between the alien fleet and the evacuation zone. We're going to buy those people every second we can." As her crew rushed to comply, Chen opened a channel to the colony below. "This is Commander Chen of the Earth ship Hyperion. To all colonial defense forces, hold your positions. We're coming to help, and we're bringing hell with us." The Hyperion's engines flared as it dove toward the planet's atmosphere, its hull already scared and burning from battle damage. Behind it, the alien fleet moved to pursue, their confident formation now tinged with what Chen hoped was uncertainty. They were about to learn that humanity's determination to protect its own was more dangerous than any advanced technology. Dimensional pulse charged to 60%, the AI reported, calculating optimal detonation point for maximum disruption. Chen watched the range indicators counting down. They would only get one shot at this. If they timed it wrong, or if the pulse didn't work as theorized, 15,000 civilians would die. "All hands," she announced shipwide, "prepare for atmospheric entry under combat conditions." This is what the Hyperion was built for. Let's show these aliens why you don't underestimate human ingenuity. The ship plunged toward New Eden's surface, its shields blazing with atmospheric friction and enemy fire, carrying humanity's hopes with it. The turning point. The Hyperion's entry into New Eden's atmosphere was anything but subtle. The experimental warship carved a path of superheated air through the sky, its quantum shields flickering with strain as they deflected both atmospheric friction and continued enemy fire. Behind them, 8 alien capital ships pursued, their weapons turning the clouds into ionized plasma. Dimensional pulse at 87%. Dr. Nash shouted over the ship's groaning hull. "But the containment field is becoming unstable. We need to trigger it soon, Commander." The tactical display showed the desperate situation on the ground. Colonial defense forces had established a perimeter around the spaceport, where thousands of civilians were being loaded onto every transport vessel they could find. But alien ground forces were pressing in from 3 directions, their advanced weaponry steadily overwhelming the defenders' hastily prepared positions. Status of the alien fleet's formation, Chen demanded, hanging onto her chair as another near miss rocked the ship. "They are maintaining optimal firing positions," the AI reported. However, their pursuit has drawn them into a tight grouping within the upper atmosphere. This presents a tactical opportunity, but also increases their combined firepower. Chen's eyes narrowed as she studied the display. "Show me their command and control signals. Where's the coordination coming from?" A new overlay appeared, showing complex energy patterns linking the alien vessels. One ship, slightly larger than the others, appeared to be the nexus of these communications. "Their flagship," Chen breathed. "That's what we need to hit. AI, calculate a new attack vector. I want us to slingshot around the planet's magnetic field and come up right under their formation." "Commander," Dr. Nash interrupted. "The quantum drive won't survive that kind of maneuver. We're already redlining the containment fields." "It doesn't need to survive," Chen replied quietly. "It just needs to get us into position." "How's the dimensional pulse?" 93% charge. "But Commander, at that range, the pulse will affect us just as much as them. We'll lose all shields and primary systems." Chen opened a channel to the colony below. "Ground forces, this is Hyperion. We're about to create one hell of a distraction. The moment you see the flash, I want every transport you've got to make a break for orbit. Don't wait, don't hesitate, just go." She switched to ship-wide communications. "All hands, secure for extreme maneuvers. Engineering, prepare to divert all remaining power to the pulse. And someone wake up our backup systems. We're going to need them." The Hyperion's engines screamed as Chen put her desperate plan into action. The ship dove deeper into the atmosphere, using the planet's magnetic field to accelerate in ways that defied conventional physics. The alien fleet adjusted their formation, trying to predict where their prey would emerge. They guessed wrong. The Hyperion exploded upward through a bank of storm clouds, its quantum drive pushing far beyond safety limits. For a fraction of a second, they were perfectly positioned beneath the alien formation, less than a kilometer from their flagship. "Now," Chen ordered. The dimensional pulse fired. Reality itself seemed to twist and tear as exotic matter interacted with normal spacetime. A sphere of distorted physics expanded outward from the Hyperion, engulfing the alien fleet. The effect was catastrophic. The aliens' advanced technology, so dependent on precise quantum states and controlled spatial fields, went haywire. Ships lost power, shields failed, and their perfect formation dissolved into chaos. But the Hyperion paid a terrible price. The quantum drive imploded, taking most of their primary systems with it. Emergency lights flicked on as the ship began to fall back toward the planet. "Status," Chen demanded, picking herself up from where the pulse had thrown her. "Main power offline," Dr. Nash reported grimly. "Quantum drive is gone. Conventional engines at 30%. Shields are dead, Commander." "But the aliens?" "Their fleet is in disarray," the AI confirmed. "The pulse appears to have completely disrupted their quantum-based systems. However, they will likely begin restoring functionality within minutes." Chen watched as civilian transports began streaking for orbit, taking advantage of the aliens' temporary disability. But too many people were still trapped on the ground. "How many backup systems can we bring online?" "Enough for atmospheric flight and basic weapons," the AI responded. "But without the quantum drive or main shields, we cannot survive another engagement with their capital ships." Chen nodded slowly. "Then we make sure they're too busy to stop those transports." "I plot an attack course for their flagship." "Lieutenant Park, bring all conventional weapons online." "Dr. Nash, get me everything you can from those engines." "Commander," Park said hesitantly, "without shields or the quantum drive, we're dead anyway if those aliens recover and resume their attack." Chen cut him off. "But we can make our last act count for something. The Hyperion was built to protect humanity. Let's fulfill that mission." The wounded ship turned toward its prey, weapons charging. Above them, the alien fleet was beginning to recover, their systems slowly coming back online, but their perfect formation was shattered, their confidence broken by this unprecedented attack. "All hands," Chen announced, her voice steady despite everything. "It has been my honor to serve with you. Now let's show these aliens that humanity doesn't go quietly." The Hyperion rose through the clouds one last time, every remaining weapon primed and ready. They had discovered a critical weakness in the aliens' dependence on quantum technology. The only question was whether they could press that advantage before their own damaged systems failed completely. Behind them, the civilian transports continued their desperate flight to safety, carrying the future of New Eden with them. Whatever happened next, the Hyperion's crew had already changed the course of the war. They had proved that humanity could stand against even the most advanced alien threats. And they weren't finished yet. Counterstrike. The Hyperion climbed through New Eden's turbulent atmosphere on failing engines. Every system pushed far beyond safety limits. The ship's hull creaked and groaned. Battle damage from earlier exchanges now fully exposed without their quantum shields. But Commander Chen's eyes were fixed on the alien flagship above, its massive form still struggling to recover from the dimensional pulse. AI, analyze their recovery pattern, she ordered. Find me a weak point. Their quantum systems are rebooting in sequence, the AI reported. Power distribution appears to prioritize defensive systems over weapons. Estimate 30 seconds until their shields reach minimum operational status. Dr. Nash's voice came from engineering, strained but determined. Commander, I've got the conventional engines up to 40%, but that's all we're getting. One good hit from their main weapons will tear us apart. Then we don't get hit, Chen replied. Lieutenant Park, status of our remaining weapons. Rail guns at 60% capacity. Conventional missiles armed and ready. Point defense grid operating on backup power. Park's hands flew over his console, but without the phased plasma array. We work with what we have. Chen cut him off. AI, show me their power distribution grid again. The holographic display flickered to life, showing energy flows through the alien flagship's massive hull. Something caught Chen's eye. A pattern in the way their systems were reactivating. There, she pointed. They're drawing enormous power to restart their quantum cores. That means, she turned to Dr. Nash's station. Doctor, what would happen if we detonated a conventional warhead inside their shield envelope, right as their quantum systems try to restart? There was a moment of silence as Nash ran the calculations. The energy feedback. It could cascade through their entire power grid. But, Commander, we'd have to time it perfectly and deliver the warhead practically point-blank. And survive their escort's fire long enough to get that close, Park added grimly. Chen studied the tactical display. The alien support ships were regaining power faster than their flagship, already moving to form a defensive screen. But their formation was loose, disorganized. They were still rattled from the dimensional pulse's effects. Plot me an attack vector, she ordered. Use the planet's magnetic field like before, but this time I want to take advantage of these storm systems. Can you calculate their sensor blind spots? Affirmative, the AI responded. New Eden's unusual magnetic properties create several detection shadows. However, navigating them at our current power levels carries significant risk. Living through this carries significant risk, Chen muttered. How many missiles do we have left? 12 conventional warheads, Park reported. 4 EMP variants. Chen's mind raced through the possibilities. Load the EMPs first. When their shields start to rise, we'll hit them with those to delay the quantum restart. Then, while they're still processing that disruption, a conventional warhead directly into their power core, Nash finished. It's crazy enough it might work. Might is all we need. Chen opened the ship-wide comm. All hands, secure for extreme maneuvers. We're about to attempt something monumentally stupid, but if it works, we'll give humanity a fighting chance against these bastards. Engineering, I need everything you can give the engines. Weapons, I want perfect timing on those missile launches. And everyone else, it's been an honor. The Hyperion dove into the storm system, using the turbulent magnetic fields and ionized clouds as cover. Lightning crackled around their hull, adding to the damage, but also helping mask their approach from alien sensors. Above them, the enemy fleet continued to recover, but their previous arrogance was gone. The dimensional pulse had shaken their confidence, shown them that humans weren't the primitive species they'd assumed. Now they moved with cautious precision, trying to protect their flagship while it completed its restart sequence. Enemy escorts adjusting course, Park reported tensely. They're trying to establish a full coverage grid. But they haven't spotted us yet, Chen noted. Time to intercept. 45 seconds to optimal firing position. Enemy flagship's quantum restart at 68% completion. Their shield envelope will begin forming in approximately 30 seconds. Chen nodded grimly. Perfect. Weapons, prepare to launch EMP warheads on my mark. Engineering, I want every scrap of power you can give to the engines for our final run. The ship shuddered as they climbed through the storm, lightning illuminating the bridge in stark flashes. The alien flagship grew larger in their view, its massive hull still crackling with residual energy from the dimensional pulse. 20 seconds to shield activation. The AI warned. Steady, Chen murmured. Wait for it. The first shimmer of the aliens' quantum shields began to form, a gossamer web of energy spreading out from their hull. Mark. The EMP missiles streaked from the Hyperion's launch tubes, crossing the distance in seconds. The aliens' point defense systems, still not fully online, managed to catch only 2 of the 4 warheads. The electromagnetic pulses detonated just as the quantum shields were powering up. Energy cascaded across the flagship's hull, disrupting the delicate initialization sequence. Shield restart delayed. Park called out triumphantly. Their power grid is fluctuating. Now, Chen ordered. Full power to engines. All remaining missiles. Target their primary power core. The Hyperion burst from the storm clouds like an avenging angel, conventional warheads streaming from its launch tubes. The alien escort ships opened fire, energy beams, and graviton weapons reaching for the human vessel. But Chen had timed it perfectly. Their fire control was still recovering from the EMP effects, their shots going wide as the Hyperion closed the final distance. The flagship's massive hull filled their viewport. At this range, they could see the alien crew through viewports, their reptilian features twisted in surprise at the human ship's audacity. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The conventional warheads struck home just as the flagship's quantum core attempted to restart. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to tear open. Victory's price. The explosion began as a pinpoint of blinding light at the alien flagship's core. For a fraction of a second, the quantum energy cascade was beautiful, a flower of pure light blooming in the storm-racked sky above New Eden. Then physics reasserted itself. The flagship's hull buckled inward as its quantum core imploded, creating a localized distortion in space-time. Secondary explosions chained through the massive vessel, each one adding to the destructive maelstrom. The ship began to break apart, massive sections of hull peeling away like petals from a dying flower. Full reverse. Chen screamed over the sound of straining metal. Get us clear of the blast radius. But the Hyperion's damaged engines couldn't respond fast enough. The shock wave hit them like a physical wall, sending the ship tumbling through the atmosphere. Warning klaxons blared as structural integrity alerts flashed across every console. Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. Dr. Nash reported, his hands flying over emergency controls. We're losing power to the stabilizers. Chen fought with the helm controls, trying to arrest their fatal dive toward the planet's surface. AI, give me something. Any systems still responding. Emergency thrusters at 12% capacity. The AI responded, its usual smooth voice showing signs of strain as its processors dealt with the cascade of system failures, calculating optimal burst pattern for controlled descent. Through the bridge viewport, Chen could see fragments of the alien flagship raining down through the atmosphere, each piece trailing fire like falling stars. But more importantly, she could see the civilian transports, dozens of them, successfully breaking orbit, carrying thousands of survivors to safety. Commander, Lieutenant Park called out, the alien escort ships, they're retreating. The tactical display confirmed it. The remaining alien vessels, witnessing the catastrophic destruction of their flagship, were accelerating away from New Eden. Their perfect formation was shattered, their confidence broken by this unprecedented defeat. They never expected resistance like this, Chen said softly, even as she fought to keep the Hyperion airborne. They thought we were primitive, easy prey. Now they know better. The ship's descent continued, but the AI's calculations were buying them precious time. Emergency thrusters fired in precise sequences, bleeding off speed and energy in a controlled pattern. They wouldn't achieve orbit again. The damage was too severe, but perhaps they could survive the landing. All hands, brace for impact, Chen ordered over the ship-wide comm. Engineering, divert all remaining power to forward structural integrity fields, and someone get me a line to Colonial Defense Command. They need to know what we learned about alien quantum technology. The ground rushed up to meet them, New Eden's landscape scarred by the battle but still alive, still human. Chen thought about the colonists they'd saved, the knowledge they'd gained about their enemies' weaknesses, and the message they'd sent to any other alien race that might think humanity was an easy target. The Hyperion struck the ground hard, skidding across several kilometers of open terrain before finally coming to rest. Emergency systems activated automatically, preventing fires and sealing off damaged sections. Somehow, the bridge was still intact. "Status report," Chen demanded, pulling herself up from where the impact had thrown her. "Hull integrity at 20%, the AI responded. "Multiple systems critical, but crew casualties are minimal. Emergency protocols performed as designed." Dr. Nash's voice came over the comm, rough but alive. "The quantum drive is completely gone, Commander. This ship will never fly again. But I'm already cataloging everything we learned about their technology. The way their quantum systems failed when exposed to our dimensional pulse. We can use that." Chen nodded slowly, looking out through the cracked viewport at the New Eden sky. The last of the alien ships were vanishing into FTL, leaving behind the wreckage of their flagship as a testament to humanity's defiance. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command," she ordered. "They need to know everything about the alien weaknesses, their quantum technology, and most importantly, that they can be beaten." "Channel opening," the AI confirmed. "And Commander, during the battle, I recorded extensive data about their tactical patterns and technology. This information will be invaluable for upgrading our defenses." "They thought they were invincible," Chen said, watching as Colonial Defense Forces vehicles approached the downed Hyperion. "They thought their advanced technology made them unstoppable. But they didn't count on human ingenuity or our determination to protect our own." She turned to face her crew, engineers and test pilots who had become warriors when duty demanded it. "The Hyperion may be grounded, but we've shown the galaxy something important today. Humanity won't bow to any threat, no matter how advanced. We adapt, we improvise, and we overcome." Lieutenant Park managed a tired smile. "Think they'll come back?" "Eventually," Chen replied. "But next time, we'll be ready. Every ship in the fleet will be equipped to exploit their quantum vulnerabilities. Every colony will have better defenses. And most importantly, they'll know that attacking humanity comes at a terrible price." As rescue teams began cutting their way into the downed ship, Chen looked one last time at the sky where their enemies had fled. The Hyperion had been humanity's first real test against an advanced alien threat. They had passed that test not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through courage, innovation, and the unwavering will to protect their own. It was a lesson the galaxy wouldn't soon forget. In the months that followed, the Battle of New Eden would become a symbol of humanity's resilience. The Hyperion's wreck was converted into a monument and research facility, where engineers and scientists worked to unlock the secrets of alien quantum technology. The ship's AI became the core of a new planetary defense network, its experience in the battle proving invaluable in preparing for future threats. But more importantly, the story of the Hyperion's last flight spread throughout human space. It became a reminder that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons or technology, but in the spirit of its people, the unwavering determination to stand against any threat, no matter the odds. The aliens had come expecting an easy conquest. They had left with a very different understanding of humanity. And somewhere out in the vast darkness between the stars, other alien races took note. The humans were not to be underestimated. The insignificant assessment. The Galactic Assembly's main chamber gleamed with technology that could bend space and time. Representatives from over 200 civilizations gathered under the crystalline dome on Nexus Prime, the neutral world that served as the heart of interstellar politics. Today, they would assess a newly discovered species from a small blue planet called Earth. Ambassador Korath of the Thracian Empire stood at the center podium, his 4 arms folded in a gesture of supreme confidence. His reptilian scales shimmered under the artificial starlight as he began his presentation. Esteemed members of the Assembly, his voice boomed through the neural translators. We have completed our assessment of the species known as humans from the Sol system. The holographic display activated, showing images of Earth and its inhabitants. Several representatives made sounds of amusement or disdain as they observed the fragile-looking bipeds going about their daily lives. Physical analysis shows severe limitations, Korath continued, his tail swishing with barely concealed contempt. They lack natural armor, possess no inherent energy manipulation abilities, and their sensory organs are remarkably primitive. Their lifespans barely exceed 100 solar cycles, and they require constant intake of organic matter and water to survive. The Silveri delegate, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, pulsed with curiosity. What of their technological achievements? Korath's mandibles clicked dismissively. Rudimentary at best, they have achieved basic spaceflight, but their vessels are slow and inefficient. Their weapons are primarily kinetic-based, relying on chemical propellants. They still use nuclear fission for power generation. Frankly, they're centuries behind even our youngest member species. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the Assembly. The Zixian representative, whose species had mastered quantum tunneling 3 millennia ago, made a sound equivalent to laughter. Another primitive civilization to add to the protected list, then. Indeed, Korath nodded. I recommend Classification D. A developing species with limited potential. They pose no threat to galactic stability and require no immediate intervention. Perhaps in 1,000 cycles, they might achieve Classification C status. Just as the Council prepared to vote, the chamber's massive doors opened. A lone figure walked in, wearing a simple gray uniform adorned with a blue and green patch depicting Earth. The Assembly fell silent, shocked that a human had somehow gained access to their most secure facility. Sarah Chen, Earth's first interstellar diplomat, strode confidently to the center of the chamber. Her dark eyes swept across the alien faces, showing neither fear nor awe at the technological marvels surrounding her. Honored members of the Galactic Assembly, she said, her voice steady and clear. I am Sarah Chen, representing the United Earth Government. We've monitored your transmissions and decoded your assessment protocols. While we appreciate your thorough evaluation, I must inform you that your conclusions are fundamentally flawed. The chamber erupted in various sounds of outrage and disbelief. Korath's scales darkened with anger. How dare this primitive interrupt our proceedings? Security. Chen raised her hand, and to everyone's surprise, the security systems didn't activate. We've temporarily disabled your defensive measures, she explained calmly. Not to threaten, but to demonstrate a point. You've underestimated us. She touched a device on her wrist, and the chamber's holographic systems displayed a different set of images, human achievements that the Council had overlooked or dismissed. You see our physical limitations as weakness. We see them as challenges to overcome. You mock our technology as primitive, yet you fail to recognize the speed at which we advance. The images showed human prosthetics that surpassed biological limbs, genetic modifications that enhanced natural abilities, and spacecraft designs that, while crude by galactic standards, showed innovative approaches to common problems. You classify civilizations based on what they are. Chen continued, not what they can become. Humanity's greatest strength isn't in our bodies or our current technology. It's in our adaptability, our creativity, and our relentless drive to push beyond our limits. Korath recovered from his shock and sneered. Pretty words from a species that still fights wars among themselves. Your planet is divided, your resources wasted on internal conflicts. What could you possibly offer the galaxy? Chen's expression hardened. A different perspective. A reminder that strength comes in many forms. And a warning. Do not mistake our current state for our potential. The assembly laughed, the sound echoing through the chamber like rolling thunder. Chen stood unmoved, her posture radiating a quiet confidence that unsettled some of the more perceptive delegates. Very well, Korath declared, his voice dripping with condescension. The human has spoken. Now let us proceed with the classification vote. The vote was swift and unanimous. Earth was designated a Class D civilization, to be monitored but largely ignored. Chen departed without another word, but her eyes held a promise that few in the assembly recognized. 3 months later, the Kryn Empire, known for preying on weaker civilizations, launched an invasion of Nova Haven, humanity's first extrasolar colony. The Kryn expected an easy victory against the primitive humans. They brought a fleet of 50 warships, each capable of devastating entire continents. The Galactic Assembly received the news with mild interest. Some members expressed token concern about the violation of protection protocols, but most assumed the human colony would fall within days. After all, what could a Class D civilization do against the might of the Kryn? The answer came 12 hours after the invasion began. The Kryn fleet, confident in their superiority, approached Nova Haven in a standard assault formation. They were met not by the handful of defensive ships they expected, but by a human fleet that seemed to materialize from nowhere. 200 human vessels emerged from what appeared to be empty space, surrounding the Kryn fleet in a perfect sphere. The alien sensors hadn't detected them, because the humans had developed a stealth technology that bent not just light, but space itself, something the Assembly had deemed impossible for a Class D civilization. Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the UEA's Defiant opened a channel to the Kryn flagship. This is Captain Rodriguez of the United Earth Fleet. You have violated our sovereign territory. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences. The Kryn commander laughed. Primitive apes, your ships are nothing but tin cans. Surrender, and we might spare some of you for study. Rodriguez's response was to give a single order. All ships, execute Operation Steel Rain. What followed stunned observers across the galaxy. The human ships didn't engage in the traditional naval formations that had dominated space warfare for millennia. Instead, they moved like a swarm, each vessel operating independently yet in perfect coordination. They used gravity wells as slingshots, turned asteroid fields into weapons, and employed tactics that seemed to defy conventional military doctrine. The Kryn's advanced energy shields proved useless against the humans' hybrid weapons, a combination of kinetic projectiles and directed energy that phased through defensive barriers. Within 6 hours, 30 Kryn warships were disabled or destroyed, and the rest were in full retreat. The news reached the Galactic Assembly like a shockwave. Ambassador Korath stared at the battle reports in disbelief. This is impossible. They're using theoretical technologies that should be beyond them for centuries. On the assembly floor, emergency sessions were called. The humans had not just defended their colony, they had demonstrated capabilities that challenged the very foundations of the galactic power structure. The question was no longer whether humans deserved Class D status, but how a supposedly primitive species had hidden such advanced technology. Sarah Chen returned to the assembly chamber, this time accompanied by a delegation of human military officers and scientists. The aliens who had laughed at her warning now watched in uncomfortable silence as she approached the podium. Honored members, she began, her voice carrying a weight it hadn't possessed before. I believe it's time we had a more honest discussion about humanity's place in the galaxy. The real story of Earth was about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Steel Revelation. The emergency session of the Galactic Assembly convened mere hours after the Kryn fleet's humiliating defeat. The chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives whispered among themselves, stealing glances at the human delegation seated in what had previously been the observers' gallery. Sarah Chen sat at the center, flanked by Admiral Jonathan Hayes, and Dr. Elena Petrova, Earth's leading theoretical physicist. Ambassador Koreth's scales had taken on a sickly pale hue as he reviewed the battle data for the dozenth time. The Kryn Empire's ambassador, a towering insectoid being named Vexithor, demanded answers with clicking mandibles and agitated wing vibrations. "This is an outrage." Vexthor's translated voice echoed through the chamber. "The humans employed weapons that violate 17 different galactic treaties. They must be sanctioned immediately." Chen rose slowly, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos around her. "Which treaties would those be, Ambassador Vexthor? The ones humanity was never invited to sign, or perhaps the ones that don't apply to Class D civilizations?" The chamber fell silent. Chen activated her holographic display, showing the Battle of Nova Haven from multiple angles. "Let me clarify what you witnessed. Every technology we employed was developed independently by human scientists. We violated no treaties because we were never part of your technological exchange programs." She gestured to Dr. Petrova, who stood and began her presentation. "The phase-shift weapons you observed operate on principles of quantum tunneling that your scientists dismissed as theoretically impossible for space combat applications. The stealth technology uses gravitational lensing at a microscopic scale, something your researchers never pursued because they considered it too energy-intensive." The assembled delegates watched in stunned silence as Petrova explained technologies that challenged their understanding of physics. The humans hadn't just caught up to galactic standard. They had taken entirely different technological paths that the established civilizations had never considered. But how? The Silveri delegate pulsed with confusion. "Your industrial capacity, your resource base, it shouldn't be sufficient for such rapid advancement." Admiral Hayes stepped forward, his weathered face bearing the scars of countless battles. "That's where you fundamentally misunderstood us. You looked at our public infrastructure and assumed it represented our true capabilities. You never considered what we might build in secret." The hologram shifted to show massive construction facilities hidden in the asteroid belts of the Sol system, underground complexes on Mars, and shipyards concealed within the moons of Jupiter. The scale of the hidden infrastructure dwarfed anything the Assembly had detected during their assessment. "For 50 years, Hayes continued, we've been preparing, not for conquest, but for the day when we would need to defend ourselves against those who would dismiss us as prey." Koreth found his voice at last. "You deceived us. You presented yourselves as primitive while building weapons of war." Chen's eyes flashed with controlled anger. "We showed you exactly what you expected to see. Your own prejudices blinded you to the truth. You saw our conflicts and called us primitive, never recognizing that our struggles taught us to innovate under pressure. You saw our physical limitations and called us weak, never understanding that overcoming weakness breeds strength." She turned to address the entire assembly. "The Kryn attacked us because you labeled us as defenseless. How many other Class D civilizations have fallen to predators while you debated their worthiness?" The question hung in the air, uncomfortable and accusatory. Several delegates shifted uneasily, remembering civilizations that had been wiped out or enslaved while the assembly deliberated. 3 weeks ago, Chen continued, we detected a Vraxian scout fleet approaching the Epsilon Eridani system, where another young civilization is developing. A civilization you classified as Class D, just like us. The Vraxian ambassador, a being of living crystal, chimed in alarm. That is an internal matter of resource acquisition. Is it? Chen's voice cut like a blade. Or is it another example of the strong preying on those you deem weak? Before the Vraxian could respond, Admiral Hayes activated another display. 12 hours ago, the Vraxian scout fleet encountered unexpected resistance. The hologram showed human ships emerging from hyperspace near Epsilon Eridani, forming a defensive perimeter around the inhabited planet. The Vraxian scouts, caught off guard, found themselves facing weapons they couldn't counter and tactics they couldn't predict. We gave them one warning, Hayes said. They chose to engage. None of their ships survived. Chaos erupted in the chamber. The Vraxian ambassador demanded immediate military action, while others called for sanctions against Earth. Through it all, the human delegation remained calm, watching the panic they had orchestrated. Chen raised her hand, and surprisingly, the chamber quieted. "We are not your enemies," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. "But we will not stand by while you allow the strong to devour the weak. The galaxy needs new perspectives, new approaches to old problems." She activated a final hologram, showing a star map with human fleet positions. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the delegates realized the extent of humanity's reach. Human ships were stationed near dozens of developing civilizations, forming a protective network that the Assembly had never detected. "We protected ourselves because you wouldn't," Chen declared. "We developed our technology because you wouldn't share yours. We built our fleets because you showed us that strength is the only language the galaxy truly respects." Korath slumped in his seat, his earlier arrogance completely deflated. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Recognition, a seat on this council with full voting rights, and a complete restructuring of how this assembly treats developing civilizations." "Impossible," several delegates shouted. "No species has ever advanced from Class D to Class A in less than 1,000 cycles." Dr. Petrova stepped forward again. "Then perhaps your classification system needs updating. We've prepared a demonstration that might change your perspective." She nodded to Admiral Hayes, who spoke into his communicator. Moments later, alarms blared throughout Nexus Prime. The Assembly's defensive grid activated as a massive object appeared in orbit, a human dreadnought that dwarfed even the largest Thracian battleships. "The UES Prometheus," Hayes announced proudly. "Our flagship. It carries weapons that could crack a planet's crust, shields that can withstand a star's corona, and engines that can fold spacetime itself. We built it in 3 years." The chamber fell into stunned silence as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just caught up to galactic technology. They had surpassed it in ways that defied conventional understanding. "You have a choice," Chen addressed the Assembly. "Accept us as equals and benefit from our unique perspective, or continue to underestimate us and face the consequences. We've shown you what we can do when threatened. Imagine what we could achieve as partners." In the depths of space, human fleets continued their vigil, protecting the weak from the predations of the strong. The galaxy had dismissed them as fragile, but humanity had forged itself into steel through the fires of adversity. The old order was crumbling, and from its ashes, a new alliance would rise, one where strength was measured not by natural gifts, but by the will to overcome limitations and the courage to stand against injustice. The vote that followed would reshape galactic politics forever, but the outcome was already clear. Humanity had not asked for permission to claim their place among the stars. They had taken it, and in doing so, forever changed the balance of power in the galaxy. The Reckoning. 6 months after the Prometheus demonstration, the reconstructed Galactic Assembly Chamber hosted its most important session in 10,000 years. The hall had been redesigned to accommodate new security measures that ironically incorporated human technology. Sarah Chen took her place at the high table, no longer as a petitioner, but as Earth's permanent representative to the Council. The transformation had been remarkable. Dozens of previously classified primitive civilizations had been reevaluated, their true potential recognized. Human advisors now worked alongside established species, sharing insights that challenged millennia of conventional wisdom. Ambassador Korath, humbled but wiser, called the session to order. "We gather today to formalize what has already become reality: the integration of humanity into the highest levels of galactic governance." Chen stood, her presence commanding attention in a way that would have seemed impossible a year ago. "Before we proceed, there's something the Assembly needs to understand. A truth about humanity that we've kept hidden, even from ourselves." The lights dimmed as she activated a holographic display unlike any the Assembly had seen before. It showed Earth, but not as it existed now. This was Earth as it had been millions of years ago, with continents in different positions and oceans that no longer existed. Our archaeologists recently made a discovery that rewrites human history, Chen began. Deep beneath the Mariana Trench, we found ruins. Not primitive structures, but the remains of a civilization that surpassed anything in the current galaxy. The hologram zoomed in on underwater structures that defied explanation. Buildings that seemed to bend space itself, machines that operated on principles unknown to modern science. Genetic analysis confirms these builders were human, or rather, what humans once were. 15 million years ago, our ancestors achieved technological singularity. They transcended physical form, leaving behind only traces of their existence. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The implications were staggering. Dr. Petrova joined Chen at the podium, adding technical details to the revelation. We found records indicating that our ancestors deliberately reset human evolution. They left us to develop naturally, with only subtle genetic markers that would activate when we reach certain technological milestones. The hologram shifted to show DNA sequences lighting up in response to various human achievements: fire, agriculture, spaceflight. Each advancement triggered dormant genetic code, gradually unlocking humanity's true potential. This explains our rapid technological development, Petrova continued. We weren't learning. We were remembering. Each breakthrough activated ancestral knowledge encoded in our very cells. Ambassador Koreth's voice trembled as he spoke. Are you saying humans were once the dominant species in the galaxy? Chen nodded. Not just dominant, transcendent. Our ancestors chose to abandon their power, to experience existence anew. They seeded not just Earth, but dozens of worlds with life, hoping to see what would evolve. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Several elder species recognized elements of their own mythologies in Chen's words, legends of ancient beings who shaped the galaxy before vanishing into legend. But why reveal this now? The Silveri delegate pulsed with curiosity. Because the cycle is completing, Chen answered. Our genetic memories are fully awakening. Within a generation, humanity will reclaim abilities our ancestors possessed. We chose to share this truth as a gesture of trust and as a warning. Admiral Hayes stepped forward, his expression grave. In the ancient ruins, we found records of why our ancestors reset themselves. They had become so powerful that they risked destroying the fabric of reality itself. They chose limitation over annihilation. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's rapid advancement wasn't an anomaly. It was a return to their natural state. We stand at a crossroads, Chen addressed the assembly. We can repeat the mistakes of our ancestors, pursuing power without wisdom, or we can forge a different path. That's why we propose the formation of the Galactic Alliance, not based on species classification or technological advancement, but on shared values and mutual respect. She activated another display, showing the framework for a new interstellar government. Gone were the hierarchical structures that had allowed powerful species to dominate weaker ones. In their place was a system of checks and balances, with rotating leadership and protection for developing civilizations. No species will be classified as primitive or advanced, Chen explained. Each brings unique perspectives and abilities. The Kryn's military expertise, the Silveri's energy manipulation, Earth's adaptability, all have value. Over the following weeks, negotiations reshaped galactic politics. Some species resisted, clinging to old power structures, but the majority recognized the wisdom in humanity's proposal. The presence of human fleets near developing worlds had already demonstrated the benefits of protection over exploitation. The signing ceremony for the Galactic Alliance Charter took place on Earth, in the newly constructed Unity Plaza in Geneva. Representatives from 217 civilizations gathered under the open sky, a symbolic gesture suggested by the humans. As Chen signed the charter, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A year ago, Humanity had been dismissed as insignificant. Now they stood as architects of a new galactic order, their true nature revealed not as conquerors, but as guardians. In her closing speech, Chen addressed not just the assembled delegates, but all sentient beings across the galaxy. We are all children of the stars, regardless of our form or origin. Our strength lies not in our weapons or our technology, but in our capacity for growth, understanding, and cooperation. Let this alliance be a testament to what we can achieve when we see potential instead of limitations, when we choose unity over division. The Prometheus, now serving as the Alliance's flagship, hung in orbit above Earth. Its weapons had been converted to defensive systems. Its mission changed from intimidation to protection. Around it, ships from a dozen species flew in formation. Former enemies now united in purpose. In the deep spaces between stars, human vessels continued their vigil, but now they were joined by others. The protective network expanded, ensuring that no civilization would face extinction, while others debated their worth. Years later, historians would mark this as the turning point in galactic civilization, the moment when humanity's true legacy was not in reclaiming their ancient power, but in choosing to use it wisely. They had been called fragile, dismissed as primitive, and targeted as prey. In response, they had shown the galaxy that true strength lay not in dominance, but in the courage to protect the weak and the wisdom to unite the divided. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter as the new alliance took shape, as if the universe itself approved of this new path. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage, not as the gods they once were, but as something perhaps more important, the catalyst for a new era of cooperation and understanding. In the ancient ruins beneath Earth's oceans, automated systems detected the formation of the Alliance and powered down for the final time. Their purpose was fulfilled. Humanity had passed the tests their ancestors had set, choosing wisdom over power, unity over dominion. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be. From the ashes of the old order rose something stronger, more compassionate, and more enduring. The age of humanity had begun, but it was not an age of conquest. It was an age of alliance, protection, and shared destiny among the stars. As Sarah Chen looked up at the night sky, she smiled, knowing that somewhere among those distant lights, a young civilization was taking its first steps into space, protected by the alliance humanity had forged. They had been called fragile, but they had become the steel that held the galaxy together. The end was just the beginning.